All right. Very, very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Karibuni sana. Hope you're all well. Welcome to the Afriforex daily analysis, this beautiful 29th day of November, which is going to be also our last session for this year. Hope you're well, but we're glad that you could make it. So for the sake of guys who are new here, John is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit. We also do have the rest of the team here. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them on the chat box. The team will definitely be getting back to you, but I will also be looking at the questions, requests. Also, feel free to send in your testimonials and also, your criticism, whether positive or negative, on the chat box. We will be looking at that towards the very tail end of this session, even as we do end up crowning things this year. But we're really glad, of course, for the guys who've been joining us all through, I think since we came back in June, because I know there are quite a number of you who have been joining us. Thank you so much for your support. We really do value your presence and your support here. So we're going to jump straight into it. So we'll start off by looking at the watch list as always. So you can see the watch list right there. So Friday, the 29th of November, only more or less one change. The Canadian dollar has joined the sell side of things. So we will be looking at the Canadian dollar pairs that we did end up having yesterday that unfortunately did not make it onto our watch list this morning. So we'll start off with this one. This is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three regions right here that I had pointed out. Mitch had pointed out, and also some illustrations of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. We did want to see a sign of the big bars showing up within this region here. That did happen. This was a trade that we were watching out for with some snipers yesterday. Unfortunately, the market just couldn't come back in within this region, which was a real shame. And also quite a number of currency pairs that we're watching out for yesterday did actually end up missing out on our entries, but I guess that's the nature of the game. So this one was one of them. It's a real shame, but the market did continue moving up, but unfortunately not really a currency pair that we will be trying to see whether we can get trades today. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're watching out for sells. You can see the three regions right there that had been pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. So you can see that in the morning price was here. We're expecting price to possibly end up probing within this region. It did do that, came back in, although it came back in much later. And when the move did actually end up happening, this was earlier today during the Asian session. Some yen news events had come out in the morning, I think some CPIs. So those are the ones that have actually helped in terms of pushing that market to the downside. So, if you did get the trade on that one, you can hold on to it. But in terms of looking for other opportunities, I don't know. It could be a tricky one. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three regions right there that had been pointed out. And in the morning, price was here. We're expecting maybe price to do some sort of a break to the downside, then possibly come back in for us to look for the buys. That didn't happen yesterday, but you can see that today, after the market did break to the downside during the US session yesterday, the Asian session, it came back in, tapped within this region, and you can see that it started its move to the upside. So unfortunately, we couldn't get in on that one yesterday. We really couldn't get anything happening yesterday and today. When that did happen, I think it was a bit too early for some of us. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten buys as well. You can see the three regions that Mitch had pointed out. In the morning, price was here. We're expecting price back in within this region here. Unfortunately, the market didn't probe, but you can see that the bars within this region still maintained their ground. They pushed the market to the upside. There was this hold that was happening here, and also this was another opportunity that unfortunately it did end up getting missed out on. Also a couple of snipers that were looking at the charts with yesterday. So you can see that unfortunately we just couldn't get that last spike coming back in within there, but you can see that the buyers did actually push the market to the upside. Price went all the way till where we were expecting to take profit, but unfortunately it got there without us. But the best thing about it is today is another day, and there'll definitely be more and new opportunities. So the next one and the last one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. So you can see the three regions right there that Mitch had pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. So the market went up, came down, exactly like he had illustrated, and you can see that the market fooled around within this region here. It's only a bit later on today during the Asian session that the market is attempting to calm down, but you can see that there's still a real struggle, even as the market attempts to come to the downside. So that one, also not a currency pair that we will be trying to see whether we can get trades today. So shifting gears into some screenshots for the last time this year. So we did get a handful of screenshots. So we'll start off with this one from Alice. So Alice, shout out to you. So this is a sell on the euro against the Japanese yen. So I can see that you got the sell somewhere within here. And I can see that as the market started to move down in your favor, your stop loss had already, or you did bring your stop loss within your point of entry, which is good. I mean, if you did get the trade after the market broke within here to the downside on the pullback, especially if you're reading this on a smaller time frame, then that was really, really well done. And hopefully you're watching out for regions much lower where you could possibly run into issues with the opposite party. But this was a really good attempt and of course, well managed. So shout out to you for that, Alice, and of course, keep up the good work. So we did also get a couple of screenshots from Caroline Kisini. So this is on the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So you can see that you got a very, very, very good sell right at the top, right within that region there. And of course, when the market started coming lower, can see that your stop loss already way below your point of entry. So you've secured quite a lot of profits on that one. So that was really, really good. You also did get a buy. This is on oil. So I can see two good buys within this region and very, very highly professional buying opportunities. This one, so I do say so. And I can see that your stop loss already above your point of entry for both trades, which is really good. Hopefully watching out for that region at the top, but that was some really, really good trading. And of course, you also did get the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So this one, also a very good sell right at the top, not leaving much to the upside. And of course, once the market said come in low, I can see that your stop loss is already below your point of entry, even as you continue enjoying profits on that particular trade. So shout out to you for that, Caroline Kisini, and of course, keep up the good work. So we also did get some screenshots from George Shege. So this is also on the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen, almost something similar to what we've seen on Caroline Kisini's trade. But good to see that you got it right at the top. Within that region there, stop loss already below your point of entry, also secured quite a handful of pips, which is very, very good. So shout out to you for that. And the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So you can see that you got a buying opportunity here. Quite a risky buy, but at least you did end up getting away with it. And once the market started to move in your favor, did bring in your stop loss above your point of entry. Maybe the proper buy should have been when the market pulled back in within this region. But nonetheless, at least good to see that you got the buy somewhere within here, possibly some sort of an SNR. Sellers push the market down off that region, and eventually the buyers did actually come in and break this region to the upside. So that's not a bad attempt, but just be a bit more careful next time. But at least you did manage the situation well, at least when the market started to move in your favor. So shout out to you for that, George. So last but not least, we do have some screenshots from Steve Kanams. If you're watching, shout out to you. So this is on gold. So I can see that you got a handful of sells on this one within this region, which was good, and also somewhere within this region, a couple of trades within this area. Stop losses are all over the place, but I think you have managed your situations. Maybe for this one, these trades within here, I'm thinking the stop losses are possibly somewhere within this region, and maybe for the trades higher up within this region, I can see that your take profits are scattered all over this region right here, which is okay. But hopefully you're watching out for regions lower in case you did run into issues with the opposite party. But at least good to see that you were getting the sales high up, as the market was giving pullbacks, So shout out to you for that. And of course, keep up the good work. So I can see that you also did get another trade. This is also on gold. So I can see that somewhere within this region right here, as the market pulled back in within that area. This was really, really good. So shout out to you for that. Don't know where you are targeting, but at least, of course, when the market started to move lower, hopefully did bring in your stop loss a bit low. I know that the market got till somewhere, I think, within this region, because can remember that move, because I was also trying to see whether I could have gotten a sell on this one yesterday as well. So shout out to you for that. Alice, Caroline Kisini, George, Steve, keep up the good work. And of course, even as we get into the holiday season, keep on trading. And of course, this goes out to everyone else as well. You can't keep on trading. The markets will get slow. And even if we won't be doing the daily analysis, I mean, if you still want to send in your screenshots, feel free to do so. Our contact details are definitely there beneath the video description. And of course, we will be happy to see what you're up to. We'll give you feedback as much as we can. And of course, even as we look forward to the new year, just make sure that you also take a bit of a break. I know that some of you may be also trying to go hard or go home on the charts before Christmas, but also remember that the charts are also going to be slowing down. So also maybe that time where you should be taking a bit of a break so that at least you're also re-energized for the new year. So just make sure that you also do factor that in. If you do take trades, also be a bit patient. Maybe sometimes setups might actually end up taking a bit longer to actually end up panning out. So just make sure that you also do exercise some patience. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of what happened yesterday plus the screenshots. So I think we can end up shifting gears into matters today. So you can see the watch list right there. So it's basically the euro and the US dollar against everything else. So we'll start off with the euro pairs, mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three regions that Mitch had pointed out, also some illustrations of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get price coming in within there. And when the price came down within this region, you can see that it really struggled to break and hold beneath this region to the downside. So for this one, the levels are more or less the same. The story is the same. So we'll be trying to see if either we can get a proper breach of this region right here to the downside. The market has just breached. Let's see if we can actually end up getting the hold. If we do get the hold, maybe even the market could attempt to break to the upside, but still hold beneath. If you watch out for the times, then you could possibly end up getting a good trade, maybe during the London session at around 11, maybe during the US session from around 4 moving into 5:30. But one thing you will also need to factor in is the fact that it's Thanksgiving in the US, and today they're going to be having an early close, which means that in as much as the markets are going to be moving, the retail traders are the ones who are going to be on the charts. The big boys are not going to be there. So it might be something similar to yesterday. So in case things are dead, then just make sure that you possibly just end up aborting the mission and maybe look for opportunities on Monday, as opposed to agonizing, holding on to trades, attempting to move the markets during the US session. So watch out for this one. In case the market probes to the downside, comes back to the upside and holds within here, it could possibly end up coming back in within this region right here. If it does, then maybe it could get some proper selling opportunities happening off this region here. But also just make sure that you remember, in case the market breaks above that red SNR to the upside, then unfortunately, at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten sells. You can see the 3 areas that had been pointed out, also illustrations of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. And you can see that the market probed this area to the upside, came back, it and held. But unfortunately, the market couldn't move yesterday. I guess the big boys were possibly waiting for the CPIs, for the yens to possibly come out today. And you can see that the yen pairs have really moved. So this one, a lot of patience was needed. The setup was good, but you can see that the market moved very early today morning. So for this one, we'll have to wait and see whether we can get the pullback coming in. Already, you can see that the buyers have started to give the sellers some issues. Hopefully, we could get the market just pulling back in within this region, give us some sort of a retest within that area. Then hopefully, we could get some very good selling opportunities happening off this region here. Alternatively, if the market continues coming down lower, then I guess we'll have to wait and see if we can get a breach of this region to the downside. If we do get that, then I guess we'll have to wait and see if we can get a proper pullback coming in before we can actually end up looking for some selling opportunities on this one. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the top, bit of a long shot, but in case the big boys do need that price, then at least we should also be ready for that. So the next one, this is the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one yesterday, we were watching out to see whether we could have gotten sells. Can't see the 3 areas right there that had been pointed out, and also illustrations of what to expect. But this one was pretty much dead within here. Consider the market was more or less ranging within these regions here. So the story is more or less the same for this one. So we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities and also areas where we can manage within these 3 regions right here. So the story is the same. Right now, the market has broken to the downside. Let's see if we can get the market hopefully pulling back in within here. And if we get a nice slow pullback of the market within this region here, and we get that rollover phase happening, then we could potentially try and see whether we could get some selling opportunities within this area. It seems like the sellers are sitting somewhere high up within here. But every time when you look at how the buyers are coming up, they look to be coming back in within this region quite aggressively, especially off this region here. If hopefully the next time they can slow down coming in within that area, then at least hopefully we could get some good selling opportunities that would possibly end up coming down. So the sellers are looking strong, but we also need to see what happens, when the buyers start retaliating off this region here, because we're more or less within their region. So let's see what happens on that one. Also remember the region at the top, bit of a long shot, but in case the market needs that price, then we should also be ready for that. So the next one, this is the euro against the Great British Pound. For this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten sales. These are the 3 areas that had been pointed out, also illustrations of what to expect. In the morning, price was here. Price came down, broke to the downside. There was also this SNR that Mitch had pointed out here, where you could have potentially found the market bouncing off from. And you can see that it bounced off this region a number of times before it actually broke free to the downside. And this was during the US session. But you can see that the market didn't fully come back in within this region. Just pulled back in within this area right here. You can see that it struggled on its way down, in as much as it's making its sequence of lower lows and lower highs. But the big boys are not quite there yet. So there's a possibility we might just need a pullback to come in, maybe to incite more buyers to come in, before the sellers do actually show up. But we also could find the market coming back in just within this region here, or maybe somewhere within this area. So let's watch out for that. But also there's a possibility price can also come back in all the way to the region at the top within here. So let's see what happens. Although this one has been extremely slow the last 2 days. I know that I got a trade high up within here, although it did come out somewhere within this area. But it's really been dragging, coming down. And right now, considering the fact that we've come in within a region where we do have buyers, there's a possibility you could find the buyers reacting. So in terms of looking for the sells, don't really look for the sells now, unless we get the market breaking to the downside of this region right here. If we get the pullback coming in, then possibly we could end up getting something like that, and we could look for sells. But give the buyers the benefit of doubt. We don't know how far they might actually end up pushing the market. It could come back in within here or all the way at the top there. But basically what we want to see is that slowdown of the sellers, of the buyers and the big sellers now really starting to come in before we actually jump in on any selling opportunities. So do end up watching out for that. And also remembering the red SNR at the top. That's going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get our last selling opportunities. So moving on into the next euro pair. This is the euro against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. So these are the 3 areas that Mitch had pointed out. In the morning, price was here. It wasn't a good time to look for the selling opportunities when price was holding within this region. We needed to see the market either break to the downside of this area to the downside, or maybe come back in somewhere as close as possible within here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the pullback coming in all the way till there, but there's also this region that was pointed out where potentially we could have looked to see whether we could have gotten the selling opportunities. And you can see that the market ranged within these 2 regions right here. And it still held more or less within this area. So we'll be waiting to see whether the market can actually break free of this range. If it breaks to the downside, which is this region here, then we will be expecting something similar to what we're expecting yesterday. You can see that the market has attempted to break free of this area to the downside, but I guess these buyers within here just won't let the sellers go. So hopefully we can get the market breaking and holding to the downside. I think it might even be safer, possibly end up watching out for this region. If we can actually even break free of this region to the downside, I think the sells down here might actually even be much, much better. And they give you possibly lesser issues than these ones right here. These ones could be a bit aggressive. This one's a bit more conservative. But let's also see what happens to the upside. Because if the market continues to rally up, it's either the market is going to go higher, maybe trying to look for much better prices than this. You could find the market go up, come back in within this region, and you could get some small sales within here. But squeezing yourself within that region might be a bit of a risk. I think if the market could possibly end up going up higher, back within this region here, incite a bit more buyers to come in, which is going to be good. When the market taps within this region and does its rollover phase within this area, and the big sellers start to show up, I think this sell might actually end up blasting through these regions all the way down till within here. But you'll still need to end up doing some money management within these areas. It doesn't mean that just because the big boys will show up at the top, that the market is going to drop all the way to the bottom. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But also remember the red SNR at the top. That's going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get our aggressive and our last selling opportunities. So last but not least, this is the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, this is a new entrant on our watch list. We will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So right now the market is just holding above a support region. Let's see if we can get the market possibly coming back up somewhere as close as possible within here. I mean, there are quite a number of levels within this area that are of interest. So you can see that there's this area here. Maybe if the buyers can't go all the way to the top, they might get to within here. There are also quite a number of areas within this area right here where you could find the market possibly also coming back in before the sellers do actually end up showing up. But hopefully we do get that pullback coming in. But in case we don't, then I guess we'll have to end up waiting to see if the market can actually break beneath this region to the downside. If we do end up getting a hold to the downside, maybe even some attempts to actually break to the upside, which end up being unsuccessful, then I think at that point in time, we can actually try and see whether we can get our more or less semi-aggressive conservative selling opportunities within that region there. So just make sure that you do watch out for those three areas right there. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of the euro currency pairs. So we're going to move on to the USDs now. So let's mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three regions right there that Mitch had pointed out. Also some illustrations of what to expect. So unfortunately, the market couldn't come down here, but you can see that the market went to the upside. The big boys showed up. We're expecting the market to just come back in within this region here. Unfortunately, this was another missed opportunity yesterday, which was quite unfortunate, but you can see that the market did continue moving to the upside, almost giving a 1:2.65. Maybe we should have looked for the entries a bit higher up, but guess it is what it is. So for this one, for today, we'll be trying to see whether we can get buying opportunities. The story is the same. So if I do even clear this region, it's also a region that Mitch had pointed out yesterday. If we do end up looking at more or less the story of what price has been doing, it's still more or less contained within the same region. So you could potentially end up finding that the market could pull back in within this region here. If it does, then at least we could potentially try and see whether we could get some buying opportunities within here. But we need a nice slow pullback to come in. And hopefully the buyers do end up showing up within here like they did yesterday. Then potentially we could get some very good buying opportunities within this area here. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the top. In case the market breaks to the upside, then I think at that point in time, that's when we will try and see whether we can get our conservative buying opportunities. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the bottom right there. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities on this one. So these are the three areas that Mitch had pointed out. So you can see also some illustrations. So in the morning, price was here. We wanted to either see the market maybe break to the upside, attempt to come up a bit higher within that region. Unfortunately, did not do that. So it broke to the upside, came back in, somehow held beneath this region to the downside. But like the rest of the yen that we've seen, you know, the big moves did actually end up happening during the Asian session when the CPIs for the yen did actually end up coming out. You can see that this one is no different. So the big move that we wanted to see yesterday, unfortunately, did end up happening today. So for this one, let's wait and see if we can get the pullback happening. At least if we can get the market coming back in within here, there's a possibility it could, especially considering the fact that this move is also quite visible on the bigger time frame. So I'm thinking this might be an area of interest for the big boys before they do actually end up having a second attempt. So let's see if we can get that happening. In case that doesn't happen, then I guess we'll have to wait and see if the big boys can actually end up showing up. And it's these big sellers who showed up maybe during the London session. the big boys maybe attempt to push the market down lower, then we get the pullback happening, then we could possibly end up timing the next move after that so that we can jump in on our selling opportunities. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Also watch out for the times, but also remember if things don't really end up moving much, especially during the London session, I don't think the US session is going to be any better, considering the fact that it's a holiday, but we'll just have to wait and see what does end up happening. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten buys. These are the three areas that had been pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect. The market just came within this region, fooled around here, and then turned around and went. There was really nothing to tell us to look for buying opportunities on this one. So we'll be watching out for more or less the same areas that we did end up watching out for yesterday. So let's see what happens within these three areas right here. So hopefully you can end up taking note of them, but it's more or less the same areas that we did have yesterday. So either the market breaks to the upside, let it go as high up as it can, wait for the pullback, see how far the pullback can end up coming back in, but hopefully comes back in within this area before we look for the buys. But don't feel any FOMO in terms of missing out on this buy going up. Let the big boys do the heavy lifting. Once the market goes up, most probably it will still come back in within this area. You could possibly end up getting a nice and easy buying opportunity within this area right here. So just watch out for that. But also remember that the market can also break to the downside, come back in, challenge these buyers. If they're unable to push the market to the upside, then there's a possibility price can still come back in within this region, and you could potentially find some good buying opportunities happening off this area right here. So just make sure that you watch out for that, and also watch out for the times. But also remember, don't force any opportunities. If things are not right, things are not ready, just leave it, let it go. It's better off than actually forcing an opportunity and actually getting a loss. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we were watching out for buys. And you can see the three regions right there that Mitch had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect. So the market came down well, and you can see that the buyers showed up within here. So we're expecting that last push to come in before we actually end up looking for the buy. So this one was also another missed opportunity, which was a real shame. You can see that the market has continued to rally up, but unfortunately, just couldn't get the trade within this region right here, which is a real shame. But I guess 4 missed opportunities yesterday. Maybe the markets are possibly telling me that maybe we should be taking a break already, but let's see what does end up happening today. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So hopefully we'll end up getting a nice pullback. The area right here, down here, is a bit of a long shot, but if let's say we get the market continuing to rally up, maybe even tap within this region here and we get the market turning around, there's a possibility price can either come back in within here or somewhere within this region here, because it seems like there's some sort of an SNR within this area here. But let's see what does end up happening. If we can get the pullback coming in even deeper, it might actually not be a bad thing, because it might actually incite more of the opposite party to come in, and you could find that once the market bounces off this region to the upside, it might actually end up going even much higher. So let's wait and see what happens. But also remember, in case the pullback doesn't happen within this region, then we'll have to wait and see if we can get the market breaking above here to the upside. If we get a proper pullback coming in within this region, then we could potentially try and see whether we could get our aggressive or more the conservative buying opportunities higher up within that area. So hopefully you have taken note of that. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three regions here that had been pointed out. In the morning, price was here. We're expecting price to possibly come back in within this region. It did come back in almost within that area there. Somehow the big sellers did actually end up showing up within here, but I think you did need to read this maybe on a smaller time frame, and you can see that last push of the buyer coming in before the market started its journey coming down. And it seems like during the Asian session, that's when the market has really started to pick up a bit more steam. So for this one, let's see if we can get something much more clearer than what did end up happening yesterday. The market has just broken to the downside of this region right here. Let's see more of the story of what happens here. In as much as it looks like the market is holding to the downside, but even if you do end up getting sales within here, you don't really have that much room to move to the downside. You only have about 14 pips, and you're already going to start running into issues with the opposite party. So it might actually be better to actually wait for this one, in as much as you could possibly end up saying, even if it's at the conservative area, the sales right here could be a bit aggressive. I think in case you do get sales there and the market doesn't break through this region to the downside, then you might need to actually end up managing your trade within here, because the market could easily end up coming back up, maybe regroup itself. Then maybe you could find that after that, that's when the market will actually end up breaking to the downside. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But I think in case the market breaks to the downside of this region, I think if you do look for a sell after that, I think these sells might give you lesser issues than this selling opportunity right here. So this one, you need to be a bit more careful in terms of how you go about it. But also remember, the market can come back to the upside. If it does and holds above this region, there's a possibility price can come back in within here. But there are also quite a number of SNRs within these regions where you could potentially also find the market coming back until. So just make sure that you also do watch out for that. Also the region at the top, it's a bit of a long shot, but of course, it's better to have it there and not need it rather than the market coming back in within there. You start looking for your buying opportunities and forget that we're still being held within a region where sellers can still end up reacting. So just make sure that you have that at the back of your mind. So the next one and the last one, this is the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, new entrant on our watch list, we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities as well. So you can see the three areas right there that we're going to be trying to see whether we can get our trades. Also regions where we can manage our trades. So watch out for this region right here. Unless the market breaks to the downside and we get a nice strong breach, maybe an attempt to break to the upside, which ends up being unsuccessful before we look for selling opportunities. Don't really look for the sells within this area here. You could find that the market could easily bounce off this region here to the upside. And if that does end up being the case, then you could find either the market could come back in anywhere within these regions here. But we really do hope that it comes in somewhere as close as possible within this area. If it does, then I think there could be some very good selling opportunities happening off this region to come to the downside. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Also remember the region at the top, also a bit of a long shot, but just in case the market finds its way there, then also just make sure that you're also ready for that. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of the currency pairs. So we can move on to the indices and the commodities. Consider there isn't much of a change on that front. So we're going to start off with the NAS 100. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three regions that Mitch had pointed out yesterday, which are more or less the same as today. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting either price to come down back within here to possibly give us a good buy. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. This region didn't quite react, but you can see that the market broke, started to hold to the upside, started to move away from this region, but came back in once again during the Asian session. And you can see that that's when the big buyers have actually showed up. So for this one, we will be waiting for more or less the same thing as yesterday. Don't chase the buys. Just because the market has started going up doesn't mean that it's a good idea to actually end up looking for the buying opportunities right now. Let's wait and see if we can get the market still coming back in within here. There's a possibility it can, because you can see that there's some sort of an SNR within this region here. And in case this region does end up reacting, we still could find the market coming back in within here. And you could find that some proper buying opportunities might still happen within this region right here. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Within this area, what I would best advise is, because of course you can't see that there's some sort of an SNR within there or somewhere within this region here. Maybe if the market breaks and holds above this region to the upside, maybe you could attempt some buys. And of course, this one goes out to the cowboys, because I know that there's some of you who are real cowboys on the charts. In case the market breaks and holds above here to the upside, then maybe you could attempt, some buying opportunities to come up till within here. But you'll definitely have to watch out for this region right here. Maybe have your stop loss there, because if the market breaks and starts to come to the downside, there's really no point having your stop losses so far, because if this region is taken out, then I guess even if you end up having your stop losses all the way down there, the market will most probably end up coming to find you. So it's better to be wrong quicker. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Also remember, for the indices and the commodities, for as long as we're holding above the red SNR, the bus is always to try to see whether we can get buying opportunities. If it breaks and holds below, then at that point in time, we can actually start to try and see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So the next one, this is the US 30 or the Dow Jones. So for this one yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten buys. can see the three regions right there that Mitch had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. It was either price to come back in within this area here for us to try see whether we could get some buys, or maybe for the market to actually move to the upside and get some buys higher up here. So the market came down, but you can see that within this region, not exactly what would have expected to see, but it seems that the buyers did actually start to hold the market within this area. And you can see that during guess this was more or less during the New York Stock Exchange session. The market attempted to go up, came down during the Asian session. You can see that the market is still bouncing off this region to the upside. So for this one, I guess the story is exactly the same. So we will be expecting either, if the market can break to the upside of this region here and we get the pullback coming in, then I guess we could possibly try and see whether we could get the buying opportunities there, but also give the sellers within that area the benefit of doubt. Just for that. So just give them the benefit of doubt. What might easily end up happening is that you could find the market could easily end up coming back in within this region here. And I guess if it does, you could potentially end up getting some good buying opportunities within this region right here. So you just need to be a bit patient. Wait and see what does end up happening, but the story is the same. Price hasn't moved far and beyond the regions that we're watching out for yesterday. So I guess the story is still more or less the same. So hopefully you can end up taking note of that. So moving on into the next one, this is silver. So for silver, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can see the three areas right there that Mitch had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect in case the market did end up giving us a good setup, within this region right here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that. So in the morning, price was here. The pullback happened. The sellers within here had nothing to say about it. And you can see that the market continued to rally up higher and it's still going up higher and higher. So for this one, we're more or less in a bit of a catch-22 situation. We're still watching out to see whether we can get selling opportunities. And these are the three areas we're still watching out for. And the reason is, considering the fact that the market has just broken to the upside, we don't know if the market is going to hold above here. You can see that before the market has actually gone to the upside of this region right here, you can see that the market has actually been pushed back to the downside and still come back in. So it's one of two scenarios within this area here. It's either the market comes back in to the downside and we can look for the selling opportunities. If that doesn't end up happening, in terms of the buys, it means that we'll have to wait and see. If either the market comes back in within this region right here, and then the market probes and actually holds to the upside of this region, at that point in time, we'll start to look for our buying opportunities confidently. So let's wait and see what happens. But also on the other hand, what we can also end up waiting for, and I know this is a bit technical, is if the market can break above this area to the upside, because you can see that the market has come in within this region before and the sellers have actually been able to react. If we can actually break above this region to the upside, and I guess the market pulls back in within here, then I think at that point in time, the buys will also be confirmed at that point in time. So we generally need to watch out for this region here. But most importantly, what happens when the market comes back in within this area right here. So I guess that's the reason why we're still having it on the sell side, because we definitely do need that confirmation before we actually start to look for those buying opportunities. And also it doesn't mean that, because the price has been there before and the sellers have reacted, it doesn't mean that you can just automatically just end up jumping in on selling opportunities. It's a scenario, yes, but you definitely need a bit more confirmation. And in any case, the buyers are also coming up within that region quite aggressively. So you also need to also have that in mind. So last but not least, we do have gold. So for gold yesterday, the bus was to try to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three regions right there that had been mapped out by Mitch. And you can see illustrations of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. Either the market was going to come down, break this region to the downside, then we could have looked for selling opportunities. Or maybe the market coming up within this region right here, giving us exactly what you can see here mapped out within here. But you can see that the market came back in within here, did some sort of a small turnaround within this area. I think there was like a small 3-minute, 1-minute type of trade just coming back in within this area here. And you can see that the buyers within this area have really held ground. And you can see that the sellers attempted to break to the downside. And today during the Asian session, the market has actually gone to the upside. So for this one, the areas are the same, the story is the same. So we will be waiting to see what happens. the buyers look like they're running up, but I think we'll definitely have to wait and see more of what happens. Because if the sellers do end up coming back in and they come in aggressive, and the market actually holds within this region here, I think there's a possibility we could possibly end up getting the market maybe moving to the downside. So we could possibly end up waiting to see if we could get something like that happening. If that doesn't happen, then I guess we'll have to wait and see how far the market can end up running. If the market comes back in within this region here and we do end up getting a slowdown, I think we could possibly end up getting some good selling opportunities happening off this region right here. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. You can also see that there are a bunch of sellers who are sitting within these regions here. And maybe that is what might be needed before the market actually ends up making a move. So let's see whether we can get those two options happening on that one before we do end up looking for any selling opportunities. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of everything. So we've mixed and matched up everything on the buy side versus everything on the sell side. So I guess we can end up looking at any questions on the Q&A section on the chat box one last time. So I see Paul Chiari there. Good to see you, PK. You're saying good morning. Thank you, John and Mitch, for always telling us before you take any trade, always look out for the direction, timing, and money management. That's good to hear. Thank you so much, PK. Hopefully, you've been applying that in your trading as well. And if you have, I hope you've been getting some good results in as much or in as far as trading goes. So I see Jimmy James. Good to see you there as well. You're saying morning Afriforex. What happened to the personal login of your website? Yeah, it's been down. It's been having issues with our servers, but it's something that we're trying to resolve. Hopefully, we should resolve that soon. If not early next year, I think it should already be resolved. So apologies for that. Been having some downtime on that, but our team is working to get that back up. So I hope that you've taken note of that, and apologies for any inconveniences. So I want to thank guys so much. Not really seeing much on the chat box. Want to thank guys so much for always taking the time to be here with us. I know we came back in a bit late in the year. I think we came back in June or July. I think it was around July 17th, if I'm not wrong. That's when we actually came back for this year. Most of you have actually been joining us. We've had a couple of technical challenges here and there. I think sometime in July or thereabout, maybe for like a week, 2 weeks, I think in August, a week in November. You know, technical issues are always there, but you guys have always been here and you've always given us the much needed support that we've needed. And we finally made it all the way till November. So, you know, the last webinar for this year, and we're really grateful, you know, for each and every one of you. Lots of testimonials, lots of comments that we've had from guys. There's one in specific that I got that I want to share with you guys. Really, I found this one quite interesting. This one is from Metrin. Metrin, if you're here and you're watching, or you're going to be watching this, thank you so much. It's a bit of a long testimonial, but it's also quite an interesting and inspiring one. So she says, good morning. My name is Metrin. I was introduced to Forex trading in the year 2020. And of course, that's during the COVID times. And she says that my friend and I dived into the market with the intention of getting rich quickly. I mean, like as all of us, when we get into the market, that's what we came here for. So as you all know, first attempts in this market, one will make some cash as if it's usually programmed. Then thereafter, it's followed by subsequent losses, especially when you don't have skills. So she says that 2 years later, my friend dropped off. However, I still had the appetite to stay in the game. I had heard of the Afriforex team. In fact, at some point, I joined the intermediate classes that they ran every Tuesday at Scope Markets. So she goes on to say, and of course, I think she's also talking about the beginner's luck. You know, that's normally there. And I know that most of you have also experienced that. When you come into the game, you first win, you think it's easy. And then now, after that, things really start hitting the fan. So she says, not once, not twice in passing, they could mention, and of course that's Afriforex, enrollment for the separate programs that they were offering over and above what they were teaching. But in my mind, I thought it was expensive and I didn't need to do so. And she says, let me tell you, friends, the greatest asset you need in this market is skills. To cut a long story short, I lost more than $15,000 cumulatively for the period I was in the market. And she says that in July this year, I called myself into a meeting and the agenda as it seemed was Forex is clearly not for certain individuals, and of course herself. So alijiita mkutano nyuma ya hema, and she wanted to quit. And she says that now is the right time to exit the market peacefully. So she had already made that up in her mind. So she says that it occurred that the previous week, I had reached out to the Afriforex team showing an interest in the amplified program, the AMP program, which is new. And being in a catch-22 situation about whether to quit or continue, coincidentally, John called me. In my devastated state, I explained to him my predicament, and he told me, Metrin, there is no need to give up. There is hope. We lost more cash than you have, yet God has restored us. I actually remember telling her that. And she says that this statement came with a resounding victory for me. I resolved to join the program, began with the masterclass program. Then a month later, I joined the Amplified. And trust me, as the training went on, she began trading with $26 rather. And by the time we were finishing the training, she says that she had recovered the fee and paid an extra. She says that I had recovered the fee I had paid and had extra money for my other needs. I still reiterate the greatest asset to remain in the market is skills. So this is really good. Going from $26, of course, recovering the amount that she paid for the AMP, which goes for about, I think, $200 or $300. And after that, also having enough to actually end up doing other things. And I also remember that you had shared this even with the rest of the class when we were doing the AMP, I think in August. So shout out to you for that. So the last part of it says that my advice to those who could be in this same state is, as I was in some years ago, you don't have to continue losing your money for lack of knowledge. Kindly equip yourself with skills. Use the Afriforex team where they can be found. You never know. That's actually true. You might actually not be here forever. So she says that one thing I appreciate about the team is they leave the analysis. Nothing is hidden from us. The second testimony is that when America was deciding whether it was Trump or Harris, we're just perusing through my trading information. I came across an account that I had opened a while back, and it was inactive with a balance of $6. So she says that I said to myself, what worse could happen? If I lose the $6, I started trading. By the end of 2 days, my account, or more or less, she took the risk. And she says that in 2 days of trading, her account went up from $6 to about 80, which is quite remarkable. And that's actually a very high return. So you actually go on to say that in 2 weeks, you had actually gone from $80 to about 400, which is actually very, very good. So shout out to you for that. So you see the bottom line of my testimony is skills are very key in this market. These are the achievements that I wouldn't have made had I not resolved to go through the Amplified program and of course all the other programs by the Afriforex team, and you say shalom. So shout out to you for that. Thank you so much, Metrin Wasike. That one was very, very inspiring, not only to me, the team, and of course everyone else here. So thank you so much for that, and we're really glad to see. And I know that also lots of you guys also do have testimonials, but the main thing and the key thing that we'll say, I mean, we're not here just to try and push and sell education and all these things. We're also here to inspire and give people hope, because we also got hopeless at one point or another. Just like Metrin is saying, we try and share our information and ourselves and give ourselves away and help as many people as possible. And when we hear such kind of things, it's not even about the money. It's the testimonials that come out from it and the blessings that flow, after that. And the fact that we're able to help many people. Waking up every morning doing this session is not easy. If Mitch was here, he'd actually share with you. Sometimes in the morning you wake up and you're like, should I really do this? Is it really worth it? But when you remember the lives of the people that you impact out there, you jump out of bed very quickly and you come here and you actually do what you need to do. So when we get such kind of testimonials, all I can say is that it's really good, and it's good to see that God is actually working. So of course, if you're still struggling, just make sure that you keep on pushing. It's not easy. We're not just here to sell education, just like Metrin is saying. I mean, we are here to also share our lives. The setups that we tell you to possibly look out for, we've shown you trades. Those are the same setups that us guys normally look out for. So by doing so, it's not to show off, but it's actually to give you guys hope, to inspire guys, to motivate guys, just to make guys see that it's actually possible. So thank you so much for that, my team. We really do appreciate. Remember, guys, if we do get any testimonials, criticism, feel free to send them in to us. I mean, our contact details are there. These guys are like an open book. Feel free to send them in to us. And of course, we'll definitely take everything that you guys tell us into consideration. So I guess we'll see you guys in the new year. Do have a restful time with your friends and loved ones. And hopefully we'll see you in January. Maybe we might be coming back in January 6th or 13th, but we'll let you know after we end up looking at our calendar and we end up planning out things for next year. But God willing, we should be back in January to keep going. So I guess that's pretty much it from me. On behalf of the Afriforex team, I want to thank you so much. I want to thank God for giving us the opportunity, good health, to be able to do this every morning. Like I pointed out, it's not easy, but at least we've been able to come through all the way till the end of the year. So let's see what next year has to offer. So as I depart, I want to leave you with the words of Numbers 6:24 that say that may the Lord bless you and may he keep you, may his face shine upon you, through this period, of course, to you and your loved ones, and may he be gracious to you and may his face turn towards you and may he always give you peace. So I guess happy trading and bye for now. May the peace be with you. See you in the new year. God bless.